Alrighty guys, now that I have reviewed every single Evil Dead movie on my channel, we are going to, of course, rank them. And this includes Evil Dead Rise, which I just saw yesterday. This is one franchise that I don't think has a single bad entry, kind of like Scream. I could see any one of these 5 movies being anyone's favorite and least favorite, just because it's all about taste and what you are into. With that being said, let's just dive right into it, to our number 6, because I'm also including the Evil Dead TV show. I'm going to put all 3 seasons into one category because I think they're all equally great. So number 6 is the original Evil Dead. I know many of you are like, wow, it's the original, how are you putting that last? Don't get me wrong, it's a great movie. It's just, I think there is a better version of the Evil Dead out there right now. And as much as I appreciate the low budget attempt at this movie and the creativity they had with the practical effects, I think this movie was severely lacking in the character department. Even Ash Williams, he wasn't overall, I think he was a very poor character in this movie. It wasn't until the sequel and Army of Darkness now we get the Ash that we know and love. Evil Dead, though, is a lot of fun, a lot of great camera work by Sam Raimi. You see a lot of potential with him, a lot of good atmosphere, and the effects, I think, somewhat hold up, and some of it doesn't, but even the stop-motion effects at the end of the Deadites, like, disintegrating is a lot of fun, and I enjoy watching that. It's a good movie, great start to a great horror franchise. Number 5, Army of Darkness. It's really hard putting these movies so low because they're so good. This movie probably would have been higher had I seen this movie probably when I was about 7-8 years old, when I was just starting to get into horror, because this movie is an adult horror movie that is made for kids. The practical effects of the Army of Darkness, of the skeletons rising up, and the humor, the slapstick humor, I think I would have enjoyed much more as a child. I think the practical effects of this would appeal to me back then. They still do now, but not nearly to that extent. This movie does get a little too hokey at times with the slapstick humor, but it's overall fun adventure horror comedy. But what really makes this movie stand out is not only the setting, because we get a completely different setting and tone. We have the arguably best version of Ash that we've ever gone. Hail to the King Baby is a great way to end this trilogy, and it's ultimately a lot of fun, and I dig it from beginning to end. I really do. Number 4, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, the series. So all 3 seasons I think are pretty much equal. I think it's a great return to form of what Army of Darkness was. It brings back the perfect mixture of horror and comedy. As great as the Ash is from Army of Darkness, I think this is my favorite Ash. This is what made me fall in love with this series. I like the original trilogy, but when I watched this, I really dug it. At first, though, I didn't like the first episode. I thought there was a lot of really bad use of CGI, and I thought this series hinged on practical effects. It wasn't until the second episode, the specific scene, that I really fell in love with the series is when they're driving down the road, and there's a Deadite in the car with them, with Pablo and Ash, and it's attacking them, and I forget who it was, but the a beer bottle was broken, and they use it to start stabbing the demon in the throat, and just blood is spurting out all over the place, just dousing them in blood as they're just screaming driving down the road. I was laughing my butt off the entire time, and that's what made me fall in love with the show, and I didn't look back, and I thought season 1 was great, season 2 was great, season 3 was great, even though the ending of the show was basically a massive cliffhanger. It's how Sam Raimi intended on ending the original trilogy. But yeah, this is a great series, and let's move on to number 3. Number 3. Oh man. Now, I was really tossing up between putting this one at number 2 or keeping it at 3. But because it's so new, I gotta put it at 3. It has a chance to go up to number 2 and maybe 1. I don't think 1, but it's Evil Dead Rise. Lee Cronin does a phenomenal job at combining the classic Evil Dead movies and how it was visually shot, and the dark and demented version of Fede Alvarez's 2013 movie. The characters in this movie are the best of the series. I think the gore is fantastic. It was genuinely creepy and terrifying, and I dug it from beginning to end. I just have to watch this a few more times to fully solidify its spot. It could be better than my number 2, but I think they could always go back and forth. It depends what movie I'll probably go back to more. We'll see how it goes in the future with this movie. So my number 2 then, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. Yes, this movie is an absolute classic. I think this franchise is a great movie franchise to watch in the month of October, and this movie is a great movie to watch on Halloween. It's just a fun little horror movie that you can just eat some popcorn to and have a good time. It's not too serious, but it has some horrific imagery, has some really good comedy, and it blends it both really, really well. Ash Williams is a lot more fun, and he's not just one note like he was in the last movie. He has some actual personalization in this one. Sam Raimi directs his butt off, and I enjoyed it from beginning to end. There's so many iconic scenes, from him cutting off his hand to him laughing with all the objects around the room after he falls and crashes through a chair. I mean, this movie is endless entertainment from beginning to end. There's not really much more to say on it. Yeah, it's a cult classic for a reason. But there is one better, in my opinion. And number 1 is Evil Dead from 2013. Fede Alvarez is a great and visual director. It is a breathtaking near masterpiece of horror, in my opinion. This is one of my favorite films ever made. And it's just beautiful to watch and just cringe-inducing at the same time. It's void of any comedy. And I think the characters are done, for the most part, well. And I think the lead character, Mia, I think you'd call her the lead character, or her brother. I think her and her brother are really good characters, especially her. I like the themes of overcoming addiction, but it's just ruthless. This movie, I think, is the most brutal and disturbing film of the bunch, in the way that Mia gets infected, which was just spine-tingling. This movie just has it all, and it's genuinely actually pretty scary. I think this movie is terrifying. It's one movie I don't even want to attempt to be in. I feel like this would just be such a painful and terrible experience that most likely you will die. Along with that, I think the atmosphere is great. Alvarez does a great job with the direction of the film. Every shot is visually captivating. Every single shot. The jump scares that are in this movie, there aren't many, because I think it's like an old-fashioned horror movie, are effective. It's just scary. The demons are absolutely ruthless and brutal. And I think it has one of the best climaxes in horror history. I've said it multiple times in multiple reviews. It's raining blood as the cabin's on fire, and Mia has to tear off her hand as the abomination is chasing after her, and she has a chainsaw that eventually shoves it down the demon's throat. Blood is spewing all over her, and there's this perfect image of the camera panning down, and you see the chainsaw into the demon's head. She's screaming, blood pouring all over her, with the fiery cabin in the background. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. This is easily one of my favorite films of all time, and it is the best Evil Dead film ever made. Sam Raimi, you know how to find your directors. Keep it going. I cannot wait for the 6th Evil Dead movie. Alright guys, I'll see you guys all next time. This is my ranking. Farewell.